Hey guys, so last week we harvested our alfalfa crop. What we're gonna do this year is interseed a little bit of sedan grass into this just to help push some extra tonnage. Some of these fields, the stand wasn't quite as strong. We thought we'd like to bump the yield a little bit, try something a little different. My dad has been working at no-tilling that straight in. He just needs a couple more bags of seed to finish up here. We're planning to get away from alfalfa in the future. We didn't plant any new fields this year. Usually a stand will last about 3 years. My dad's cleaning the drill out now, and I got the planter hooked back up. We were supposed to be done planting. Got some soybeans that didn't come up the best. It's only about 15% of our soybeans or something that we're gonna need to put some more seed down. So all the corn is planted. These are cornfields here. I got them sprayed and they'll start looking nicer here in the next week or two. Got some triticale growing back into them a little bit. We got an issue in the soybean field at the bottom of the farm here. So I'm in the last soybean field that we planted. It was borderline wet. Ended up raining a bunch and then getting cold and drying out then. And these beans just were not able to break through the surface. Got a hard crust here. You can see like this guy here is trying to curl around and pop out of the ground. But this ground is just hard. And some of them made their way out, but it's not near all of them. I would say less than 50% of them actually made it out. Kind of learned my lesson. We should have just waited. This last field was too wet. We knew the weather didn't look good. We should have just let it go and planted it after the rain. I really wanted to be able to get my planter in the shed and switch it over to corn and get ready to plant corn. If you get consistent rain and heat, even if you plant it a little bit too wet, the plants can make their way through the surface. But when you get a bunch of rain and then just dry out like this, kind of ended up being the perfect combination to keep these plants from being able to grow properly. It's a little bit sad to have to do this. We don't often have to replant anything, but I'm also thankful that most of the acres worked out fine. There's just a couple fields that were a little bit off. We're planting on 30-inch rows, and I'm trying to plant right in the middle of the last time we planted, so any of the plants that do grow end up being 15 inches apart. I got that first field done. That was the worst one, and now I backed off the seeding rate. The second field, it's looking a little bit better, but it still needs to be replanted. I'm gonna let my dad take over now. I'm gonna work at feeding cows. We just made a change,
and we're not getting paid for this.
We've always used DeWalt, and our drill went bad. Decided to try a different brand, so we got an impact on a drill, and we got all this other DeWalt stuff that we'll just have to have 2 different types of batteries for a while until they all wear out, I guess. Out here checking these fields. This is some of the earliest corn that we planted. Yep. We're gonna let our dry cows out into the pasture now. We have these 2 pastures behind our heifer barn, and we were letting heifers run on both of them for a while to chew them down. Just because we don't want to mess with the dry cows' diet too much. If we get fresh grass like that, they'll eat a bunch of it at once. We really just want to let them outside to get exercise. When we built the heifer barn, we had them put this concrete path across here so we can scrape liquid manure over to the pit, and then also run them across that way to the pasture. So these are all milk cows that are on their 2-month break between lactations. Now they're heading back into the barn already. They'll run back and forth a little bit, get used to how much space they have. They like being outside. We find in the summer, during the day, they'll definitely like to stay in the barn where the fans are running. And then in the evening, overnight, they'll stay out in the pasture. They like to lay down out there. Hey guys, so I'm in the milking parlor here. So we got a swing 14 parlor. Cows enter from the holding area, single file, and walk up and turn at an angle so we can milk them. This barn was built 19 years ago, and originally this area up here was just concrete where the cows were walking. About 5 years in, they added this rubber floor, which is nice just to add some traction, and if a cow ever would slip, it's nicer to land on rubber. It was definitely a good investment, although over time this rubber's starting to wear out. It's getting slippery, and now once it gets wet, sometimes cows, if they come in too fast or get pushed a little bit, they can slip. I'm thinking we either have to replace this rubber or come up with a way to get it gripped up a little bit. I got this tool here to try. This is made for tires, to be able to retread tires. Heats up and then just slice through the rubber. I thought this would be worth a try before we go and spend a bunch of money. So I don't know, see how it works here. Out in the holding area, we just added this rubber a couple years ago. This is from Easy Fix, and we really like this rubber. It's got a little bit more cushion to it and a lot more traction here. The old rubber didn't have near as much grip originally, and it's definitely worse now with it being worn out. Yeah, that works pretty good. They're gonna kind of go on diagonal up through here. We spray with water every side after the cows walk out, just to get any dirt out of here for the next side of cows. And if I'm running the slices this way, it's gonna kind of hinder that washing a little bit, I think. Yeah, that works pretty good. I wouldn't say it's quite like a hot knife through butter, maybe like a cold knife through lukewarm butter, something like that. Definitely works. It's gonna be a little bit tiring to do a whole bunch of it. The worst spot is right here. There's a lot of traffic. It's really worn out, and that's where there's risk of them slipping when they're trying to push into the other cows to create space. So I was just hoping to add grip, especially at the end here. So I just worked at it for 15 or 20 minutes here. They're about to start milking cows. I think it's gonna help a lot. It's gonna be a lot of work to get this all done. Probably easier and cheaper than putting new rubber in. We were burning just a little bit of brush in the fire there today. Looked out in the field here, saw we got an issue. I have never seen this before. This is probably the driest that I can remember it being in May. Normally this time of year we have plenty of rain. A little spark blew over here and just started burning out the field. Kind of surprising, didn't expect to see that. It's stopped now, but I figured I would put some water on it to make sure we don't have any issues. Brought the sprayer out here with 100 gallons of water. That'll do it. It's been a little bit on the dry side this spring. We've had timely rains, but nothing crazy. Hopefully that changes soon. Got the milking finished up this morning. So I liked how these grooves work. I think it adds traction quite a bit. I mean, it's not like we're having cows slip every milking, but I think these grooves are gonna make a big difference with the grip. We had an issue during this morning's milking. There's these wider pipes that are for man passes, but then there's some narrow gaps. And for whatever reason, this cow thought she'll stick her head up over it and her neck could get down through here, but then she couldn't pull back this way without lifting her head up over it. That was not something that was happening normally, but then twice in the last week, it was the same cow that did it. We're gonna extend these pipes up higher so that she can't get her head over it. We actually had that issue with these gaps before. That's why they stuck this in here. It was a little bit more common in there because the cows would be in the holding area waiting around. And if they'd ever swing their head up over this higher pipe would stop them, and then they'd just drop their head in there. But we had not had issues with this spot till this week. We can't put a piece across here because that curtain rolls down in the winter and it goes right between these two pipes. There's always a cow that's got to find the weak point in your operation. It's just the way it is. I got a good bit done here before milking. Bringing cows over now again for the afternoon. So my dad got a couple pipes in here. Loaded some beads around there to keep them from falling in.